Good afternoon. I hope everybody had a lovely lunch and some downtime so we can really dig into some really exciting topics this afternoon. And today we're going to talk a bit I'll just move my papers down here. We're going to talk about health tech, as the name suggests, which is, I guess, a topic that's really gained traction since the pandemic, with particularly emphasis on digital health. So I'd like to introduce my panelists firstly. Jean-Charles, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and your company to start?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be there. I'm Jean-Charles Samuelian. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Alan. We are on a mission to expand our healthy life, so get a few more years of healthy life, which is a very ambitious mission. And the way we are trying to do it is we believe that it's really possible to do because a few actions can expand from 7 to 8 years our healthy life, and there are many things that can make our life better. And the way we try to approach it is to bundle health insurance, and we are a full-stack insurance company, with your family doctor, with your therapist, with your coach, with your occupational medicine services, with MSK services, so everything in one offer, a big integrated bundle that help individuals and also companies on their health and well-being. And we do believe that it boosts engagement, it boosts attractivity and performance of companies. We work with 20,000 companies in France, Spain, and Belgium. We have 400,000 members, a bit more. And we try to be the best HR investment while we expand those healthy years of life expectancy. We have raised roughly 450 million since the beginning of the company, and we are at 300 million of revenue.
Fantastic. Okay, and Sébastien.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's also a pleasure to share this panel with great people. And I kind of feel like the Anderlecht team next to Paris Saint-Germain. You know, like, and so in comparison of growth and in terms of comparison of budget, you know, like we're probably not in the same division. But there are actually things that are very interesting in the comparison between Jean-Charles' story with Alan and my story as co-founder and CEO of Rosa. Because Rosa is basically on the same mission as Jean-Charles. We're both fighting to basically improve the lives of patients and make you live longer in good health. But I'm choosing a different product strategy. I'm basically aiming to be the leading patient application. I want you to be able to manage your health from your smartphone. And to do that, I hope you're going to be using Rosa. Rosa, for the moment, is an experiment on many facets. And developing this patient app, for us, the first step of this experiment was, how can we simplify your search for a health professional? How can you find and book a health professional online? And that's the space where in Belgium we've had tremendously high growth, signing thousands of health professionals, signing the biggest hospitals in Belgium. And so we're basically one of the fastest growing health initiatives in the country.
Fantastic. And I know we can't talk about digital health or digital tech, for that matter, without talking about AI. It seems to be the topic of the day in some respects. So I'd really be keen to hear a little bit about some of the use cases currently for things like ChatGPT and research analysis and virtual assistants and so forth that you're seeing in healthcare.
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do think we are living through a fundamental change in terms of technology with those large language models, a la GPT, who are really transforming the way we can address care at different ways. I do think that there will be a part of answers from the medical system that are going to be direct to consumer and who are going to replace, in some part, health professionals. And we can see that there was that study from JAMA a few weeks ago showing that they took random questions on Reddit and put doctors and ChatGPT answering, and it was the quality of answer was assessed as a blind test by doctors. And ChatGPT won in terms of quality of answer and empathy from quite a high margin, and it's still the very beginning. So we see a place where instead of chatting with your doctor or having a video with your doctor, you will be doing that with an AI that has been trained, and it has a lot of consequences, of course, in terms of how do you train, how you manage hallucinations, how you can audit the content. But the question of having 24/7 availability with high quality, 2 seconds to answer, I think is going to change the paradigm. Then I think shorter term, but even if that is medium term, that is going to come fast, shorter term, we are going to provide tools to the providers to be more efficient. So how I can have a summary of all the previous information to make a better decision. How can I have help for my diagnosis? How can I just lay down what are the big ideas I want to share with the patient, and the text and the summary is draft for me. And then you have all the research phase where I do think that large language models are going to be really powerful to help researchers find new molecules, new way to develop medicine. So we are at a very exciting time.
I fully agree. I mean, the foundations of the technology to really accelerate and improve healthcare are here. And Jean-Charles was talking about, okay, well, AI used in large language models. There are a whole set of other sets of technology that are relevant in diagnostics. You know, like, for example, Google has been making great strides in improving the accuracy of predicting a given condition. They've done this in eye diseases like diabetic retinopathy. They've also been working on breast cancer. Breast cancer is one of the biggest causes of death with women, and so improving an algorithm to better detect breast cancers is actually really fundamental for public health. But there are also all sorts of other things that nearly make us think about science fiction, you know, because there is tech that, for example, can interact in a video consultation, interpreting signals that your ears and your eyes cannot. For example, if there's a tremor in your voice, that can be an early sign of potential, you know, like aging conditions like Parkinson's. For example, the very slight shifts in the color of tone of your skin can be captured by a computer through a camera, and those things can once again detect your heartbeat, measure your temperature, and those are once again systematic and early signals for eventual other diagnostics. And so we're in an era where undeniably the role of the doctor is going to fundamentally change, and that scares a lot of people.
I mean, with that, I mean, I live in Germany where most healthcare providers don't have websites. You have to call them or go in person. If they're on holidays, they put a note on the door when you turn up. They still use fax machines, very common. So how do you really usher in this technology? I mean, we all like technology, but there would be a lot of people, particularly in older generations, that are fearful. How do you facilitate that?
Actually, you know, like, I'll just build on what I was saying, which is there's no debate on the fact that there's a generational divide.
Sure.
Okay, there's both on the patient side and on the health professional side. Where is the pull for digital coming? It's actually from patients. Because teenagers who were downloading on Napster when they were 16 are now turning 40. And so they're actually starting to consume the healthcare industry. And so that generation of digital natives, they're really pulling for the adoption of these new solutions, and they're pulling the health professionals in this direction. But on the same side, you also have the health professionals, the new generations of health professionals, which are early adopters, and they're very keen on all of these technologies because they see the gains on their productivity. And the extra productivity gains, they don't use it to have more patients or to invoice more, they actually use it to have a better life, because they like to be part-time. You know, like they actually like to have balance between work and private. But so this generational shift translates in these early adopters that are going to more and more make digital the norm in healthcare, because that's one of my key beliefs. Digital health is not a tech problem, it's a traction problem. And so whatever you can do as a tech entrepreneur to accelerate traction, that's the good way to go.
Interesting. Yeah, and I know you mentioned some examples of using AI or cameras to detect health conditions in a remote setting. Is there much traction for using digital or wearable tech, or maybe connected devices in the home setting as well?
It's going to be a combination of a lot of things. Seb was saying, I think there is what we are going to be able first to detect through video and audio is already amazing in terms of scale, and I think pretty underestimated. But you have also wearables like Whoop or Oura Ring that can be able to track data, and the combination of those different signals are going to be important. Again, I do think we should not be technologist absolutist in a way and expect everyone to wear a wearable at some point. I think people will have different appetites for those kind of things, and it's more how you can bring, depending on what people want in terms of usage and access of the data, how can you bring in the frictionless way access to prevention and care. And I think it's really going to be multimodal, but definitely we do see that wearables are going to be something. Quality of data is still to be interpreted and pretty unequal, but it's going to be something that is growing more and more.
And I know more recently you've entered into mental health space. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the progress there?
So for us, we do believe that healthcare is very holistic, and mental health and physical health are very, very connected. And you have studies that show that on back pain, sometimes therapy is more efficient than going to a physio. Likely the combination of both can work very well and so far. And we have seen, especially on, I think the panel was about the post-pandemic world, but there has always been a high need in terms of mental health at every stage, but there has been an acceleration with the pandemic that has acted as a catalyst. And we believe with Alan, and we had a lot of requests from HR, CEOs, managers, but also from people, that it was really hard to tackle the mental health topic. So what we have tried to approach is how you create the tools both in terms of preventive care with tools like content, master classes, journaling, but also access to care with specific programs. Either you can chat or do video with a therapist or with a coach, or you can have programs that are specialized on addressing stress or the imposter syndrome or being afraid of talking in front of a large stage, and you can have that combination of like digital first programs with access to providers in a very integrated way, which makes a better adherence to programs and that have huge impact. Like 92% of people who use Alan Mind say that it's radically improved their life, and so we believe that it's really important. But we do believe as well that it works an order of magnitude better if it's integrated in a larger experience again. And so it's not mental health against the rest, which was maybe the trend in the last, but it's mental health integrated in a more global offering.
And maybe what can I do to add on what Jean-Charles is saying is, like the pandemic gave a great opportunity for thousands of patients and health professionals to actually try it for the first time. It was a forcing mechanism for an experience. And that actually changed the world because a lot of the people never dared to try. Like for example, Rosa manages around 200,000 medical appointments per month for the moment, 30% from people that are above 60. Once they've made their first appointment and they realize how simple it is, then they do it for the rest of their life. And so the pandemic was this opportunity to kind of introduce a change that was always going to come. And then now people have experimented it. They saw how easy it is, and now the only risk we face is going back to old habits. And so it's really a question of how do we make sure that these earlier experiments get then absorbed by the system and sustained.
And to follow up on that, I think there are 2 points that are really interesting. Whatever the age, and yes, there is a generational gap, but there are a lot of studies when you put very frictionless and delightful product in the hands of people, whatever their age or their technical ability, they manage to use it and they fall in love with it. And so the question is how we make it as easy that the competing apps are TikTok, Facebook, and stuff, how you make addressing healthcare, addressing prevention simpler than that, more delightful, even more fun in a way. And then it's when you win, and then you break that generational gap that does exist.
And I guess talking about preventative health, I know, and we've alluded to the issue of work-life balance, which I know also comes up in startups and companies in all sectors. I'd love to hear a little bit from both of you maybe about maybe a a lesson or something you're doing that might be useful to people in the audience that have their own startups?
What we like to talk about in the world of startups that are growing very fast or scale up, it's like work-life integration and work-life harmony. How you make sure that everything in your job is energizing you, and how you have enough time to be energized by your private life, obviously. But it's like when you are on a mission that is as important as trying to solve the healthcare system and to make it more available, more delightful for people, like it's going to consume you a little bit. But how you use that in a way that is very positive and a positive driver. And I do think that the way to do it is to act with patience, but at the same time, being able to fully disconnect. And so we put in place a lot of tools so people don't have any notifications on their mobile, they don't have Slack on their mobile, or that kind of stuff. So when you're there, you're already there, and when you're doing something else, you're already disconnected. Because I think the risk is to be never disconnecting or never recharge. And the second thing, I think it's really about company culture and how to build a healthy business. It's how you build a company, and that's have been one of the core tenet of Alan, but a company based on radical transparency and giving a lot of ownership to the team in terms of how they manage their time, their impact, where they live, and giving that level of flexibility and focusing on the impact, for us has been a tremendous success. That being said, it's still hard to build a company, and it's very hard when you, especially in healthcare, so you need a certain level of commitment, and there is a certain level of stress at building those companies.
Do you have any thoughts?
Look, I mean, we're both, like very, very geared into company culture as one of the most unique things that a founder can shape. At Rosa, like we have around 16 values that we've grouped in pairs and created trade-offs. And that's how we look at company culture building. We basically say, well, at Rosa, like we have a value around meaning, we have a value around happiness, but at Rosa, we value meaning over happiness. Okay, and so we say both things are important. If we can have both, great. But if a trade-off needs to take place, at Rosa, in the work environment, we will value meaning over happiness. And there are two value trade-offs that have basically been super important, really transformative for us. One is, at Rosa, we value being healthy over being dependable. That was a shocker for most of our team. If we mapped the individual values within the company, number one was being dependable. Kind of makes sense. When you think of a developer, he loves to be dependable.
Definitely.
If there's a bug, I'm dependable. If someone needs help, I'm dependable. And so to tell our team, being dependable is going to be secondary to being healthy was a huge shock.
That takes a lot of vulnerability, right?
It takes a lot of vulnerability, and we found out because we had, over the course of the pandemic, 4 or 5 people that went through burnouts. Generally, those burnouts found their origin from family situations, divorces, like people passing away. But for them, hearing that we're actually in a state where we want them to care for themselves, that the company is here to care for them, that we want them to be healthy before feeling guilty of not being there for the team, not being dependable, huge, huge, huge cultural value. The second element that I wanted to bring forward is at Rosa, we value the mission over growth. And that links very nicely to what David was saying earlier, is that growth is absolutely desirable. But if you grow at the expense of your mission, you're doing something fundamentally wrong. And we feel so strongly about that, we decided to put it in our values.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
It's been a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.